Alright, so for creating the skin weights, we can see that we have selection sets here, and they are not grouped yet because we only built components separately. I will just make a complete rig rebuild with all components, and also the guide settings should be applied after that. So I'll just make a complete rebuild. Just take a few seconds. Here we go. So this has created the joints all grouped in a biped joint set. So from here we can easily grab all the joints and assign them to the body geo. Select the joints, is fine. And that being said, yeah, it's worth to mention the naming convention at this point. So by default, on all the joints, I have the suffix skin. This can be modified in the naming convention settings. So here you can see the skin joint token defaults to skin. And by the way, obviously you can still change the token order and apply it to the existing rig and rename everything. But yeah, just saying that you can also simply wildcard um, the suffix skin, and this will also select everything. All right, so from here we can go and paint the skin weights. And I mean, this is done by using the native Maya tools. There are not too many skinning tools. There are some in the bare tools for specific skinning, especially for face, where you can assign weights by loop selections and stuff like that. But normally, yeah, you can use whatever skin tools you like. You can use the native tools. You can also use NG skin tools. So you can just work the way you want. So I will just, yeah, because there's nothing really bear related, I will just go ahead and um, paint the skin weights, and we will be back right after. So just to give a quick update, I do like to use the rigid brush and paint the influence areas very roughly, and then later um, smooth everything. Also, what is handy is to display the joints so we can see where the joints are located and yeah, get a better idea about where to paint the weights. Actually, here we might want to increase the joint size. Here we go. So now we can see the joint selection much easier. Yeah, so I will go ahead with that and be back in a minute or in a couple minutes. Also worth to mention is there are knuckle joints in the rig by default. This is also an option of the limb component. So for the leg, we can go to the settings, and has mid deformed joint. So this specifies the knee joint. There's also a top deformed joint for the shoulder. So this deformed joint is called knee knuckle here, which is which is actually hidden, it seems. I will just select this. Should be located right here, yeah. Oh, it's not even visible. This might be a bug that I need to fix. Fair enough. But yeah, we can paint the knee area here, and there are on the formation there are some there's an attribute to push out, which gives yeah a good deformation, like a more edgy deformation for the knee. We will see about this later. I will get back to it. So for the leg, there's also parent knuckle. We actually don't need that joint, so I'm just not gonna weight it. And it's actually an option that could be toggled off by default. So this is the um, has top deform joint. And the knuckle deform joints, these are for toes or fingers, so for the arm. You can actually see there for the arm, there's also the knuckle deform joint option, and this creates knuckle joints for each knuckle. So for a spine, it's worth to mention that we should not paint below the lowest point of the curve rig, which is here, because if we do so, then this area will actually scale when the spine is stretched. This area will scale into the opposite direction and so create unwanted deformations. So we do want to paint the first joint area just right here. But this needs to be fine-tuned later. It's just a very rough assignment. Also, for the last spine joint, same logic. We should not paint above the area that is defined by the curve rig. So we don't want to paint in this area here, right? So this is where the curve rig ends. This is the top point, exactly where the joint is placed. So we do want to paint below that. And that's why it actually makes sense to lower the joints or the last joint, to lower the last joint a bit and to lift the first joint a little bit more up. And this can actually be done in the spine component where we have the option to create joint guides. I'll just do this very quickly to demonstrate. So rebuild the rig. Be careful when rebuilding the rig when you create skin weights. Always save before that and save the skin weights by going to File, Save Deform, so we can restore the weights afterwards, because on a rig rebuild, the joints will be replaced and so skin weights will be lost. This is important to remember. But I just only rebuilt the guide, so this is safe to do. So I want to show you that now there are joint guides available, and these joint guides, the position of those joint guides along the curve can be defined by the curve position parameter here. So we can move the first joint a little bit up to give a more meaningful joint position that better defines the deformation area. So it's naturally understood that we should not paint above the top part or the bottom part of the curve rig. Right, I will just leave it here for now. So on the next rig build, this will actually come in play. But for painting the weights, it doesn't make a difference. We can just save the weights out, and I will just do this right now actually. So to save the process, save deform. This is done. If we want to take a look at all of that, we can go to File, Open, and here we can see our version we are currently working on for our Patrick character. So I just saved the deform weights here. Also, the rig settings have been saved here. The model we saved earlier, this has been copied over from version 1 when creating the new version, and the guide is saved here. And this is our setup file. This is our current scene here. All right, and we can also at any time just do save all if we want here. save or create. Let's just create a new version just for the sake of it. And now all the files have been saved in version 3. Now we are working in version 3. All right, fine. So let's go ahead with the skinning. And maybe one word about the shoulder knuckle here. So I painted this area a bit so we can push out this area a bit. This will help for deformation. The shoulder skin weights look like this. So again, this is very rough and will be smoothed later and fine-tuned. And here we can just go ahead and paint the twist joint weights. Also here we have a elbow knuckle joint. You can paint the weights kind of here. But yeah, we want to fine-tune this later anyway, so it's totally fine. So the twist joint weights look like this here right now. Very rough. So for the wrist, we actually just want to paint the area very close to the deformation joint here, to the rotational joint, since we do have those base joints here, 0, 0. So for the left side is located here. So we want to paint the weights for those kind of like here. All right, I will just finish. And as I mentioned earlier, there are knuckle joints for each knuckle deformation here. So, oops, this one I actually painted at the wrong spot, so it should be painted here. And this is the second knuckle joint here for the index. Should be painted right here, or maybe this area. Actually, I want to keep it a little bit smaller because we're going to smooth the weights later. And we have some attribute to adjust the push value for the knuckle. I will show this after I finished the setting up all the rough skin weights. And by the way, I totally forgot to mention though, so I'm always using the post deformation node. So what I'm doing first is just float all the weights to the hips joint in interactive mode. So this is the only joint that carries all the weights, that holds all the weights. And then I switch to post and assign all the weights. So this way, this is actually a relative or layered mode if you want. So it works very well in Maya without any unexpected weights painted. So kind of similar to NG tools where you have a layering system. So just use post mode if you don't have NG tools. Post works pretty well. Alright, so finished painting all the weights for the hand. Again, very rough. So I guess now comes the fun part. Oh, that's a common scenario. I forgot the dump. Once. Alright, dump is done too. So now finally we can defloat the weights for the hips and paint that area. And we can mirror again. And finally, we can use the smoothing, the weight smoothing. So there's skin tools in the bare tools smooth weights. So this smoothes all the weights for all joints. So this is specifically useful for this technique where we paint very rough weights and then smooth everything. So we can see that it goes through all the joints and smoothes them. And this should now, if we activate the skin cluster, I deactivated it before, we can see that the weights are all in place. Let's just toggle off the joint display. Yeah, and we should have a rough assignment of all the weights. Yeah, not too bad, but as we see, obviously there needs to be a lot of fine tuning still. But yeah, as a first go, kind of works quite well. No bad joint assignments and stuff like this. There are some missing weights here. This can just be hammered. It's fine. And yeah, this is a starting point for finalizing the weights. And I will just go ahead and fine tune those weights a little bit, and we'll be back right after. All right, so all the weights have been fine tuned a little bit, and I would like to go through a few more details regarding squash and stretch and the knuckle push. So for the squash and stretch, on the first spine control, spine lower, there are a couple of attributes to modify the squash, so we can define the area here. So we don't need to necessarily tweak the weights, but we can adjust those attributes. Also, the position of the squashing can be adjusted. So, and yeah, but obviously these attributes don't have the same um, precision as weights, but I'll leave it like this for now and go over the push attributes. So the knuckles have, so there are knuckle joints and there are push attributes for those knuckles, knuckle push. So we can see here that we can make the deformation a bit sharper, a bit more bony, more bony. Same applies to the elbow. So we have here elbow push. So we can push out the elbow a little bit to kind of cheat the deformation. This is also available for the knee. Knee push. Okay, push this out a little bit. Right. And we can mirror those values from left to right side by using the bear tools guiding, mirror, guide, and control attributes. So we can just click that. It will mirror from left to right side. Also, if we want to make some more adjustments on the guide, the process is as follows. We save all. So primarily we want to save the deformation data for restoring it, and yeah, for instance, we'll make some shape adjustment here. So we can mirror obviously, but in this case it's actually faster to just pick both at the same time. We'll move them down a little bit. So here we can also adjust, obviously, guide pivots and whatnot. I'm quite happy with it, and so we can just rebuild the entire rig. We could also just rebuild only the legs in this case by choosing selected components and just selecting those rig modules or guide modules. But that is already done. Rig build is pretty fast. And just loading back in the deformation. This will take a few seconds because it's using the referenced setup file or deformation file. That's already done. So yeah, so here we can see the adjusted angle control shape. All right, so that's all good. And finally, we want to skin all the rest of the geometry, the clothes. And we can do so by, let's just first make a very quick and dirty skin cluster copy. So we select all the geometries and then select the body geo, go to the bare tools and go to skinning, copy skin cluster. So this will copy the skin cluster from the last selected item to all the geos that are selected first. So this is all binded, and yeah, we left the hair. Yeah, for the hair, we can make it very simple and just select the head joint and just also apply skinning. We could also apply parent scale constraint. Let's actually do that. So for that, we can select the geos, also groups. We can also select the groups instead, or select the entire face. I mean, we're gonna skin the face later anyway when doing a face rig, but this is just for the biped binding. So we can select the face and the hair group, and then select the joint and create parent scale constraint. So now everything is binded or bound. And yeah, we can go ahead and tweak things. So this, yeah, this already works quite well. Squash and stretch is pretty nice. And yeah, I still haven't fine-tuned anything, obviously. So we can also add delta mesh, so that is supported by Bear under the smooth option here. So smooth rebuilds delta mesh and tension deformers, for instance. So you can safely add delta mesh and paint weights for the delta mesh. Yeah, and this will be saved out and rebuilt by Bear.